How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Rallet, and welcome back to a brand new video, guys. Today we're going to be taking a look at some Pokemon news, leaks, rumors, all that kind of stuff. We actually do have some proper news today, and yes, this is a re-recorded video because for some reason the first time I did this, my microphone didn't work. So let's get right into the information, guys. Starting things off with this right here. Now, I have a few opinions on this, and some of you may understand my thoughts on this, but some of you may not, which is, this is not really what people wanted, but basically introducing the newest Pokemon, the Game Boy Advanced Classic Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Red Rescue Team joins hashtag Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pack August 9th. So yes, basically, they made the decision to bring over Mystery Dungeon Red Rescue Team. Some of you guys may know Rescue Team, maybe you've played it or not, but it's coming to the, Nintendo Switch Online service. It's part of the service. If you're paying for it, you'd have access to it. It's basically an emulated version of it. Here's the problem, though. Nobody wanted this. Like, let me put it like very clearly. If you guys don't know this, Mystery Dungeon, right? Mystery Dungeon DX, right? If you guys don't know this game, Mystery Dungeon DX is a remake. Yes, it's a remake of Red Rescue Team, right? Mystery Dungeon DX is a literal remake of this game. There is no reason for this to be, like, released on the Nintendo Switch Online. Why? Because we literally have a remake of this. This is kind of like if they decided to release Diamond and Pearl ports on Switch Online while we already have BDSP as an existing thing, right? Which I know some of you would be like, oh, I'll take that. But point is this. BDSP is a set of games that people generally don't like, whereas Diamond and Pearl they do like. But the problem here is that Red Rescue Team, people like this, but they also like DX. Like, I play DX. DX is a good game. It is, if I'm gonna be real with you, I think it's an upgrade, okay? I think it's an upgrade over the original. Sure, maybe graphically you may not like it because it has a 3D style, but that's really up to, each individual person. But I think it's a generally upgrade game. I think it's a good game. And that's the problem. We did not need this. This is so unnecessary. Like, let's just put it like this. We have, like, think about this. This is a Game Boy Advance game. We have, like, 7 other games we could have taken, right? We have, I say 7, but it's more like 6. Point is this. We had Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald. You had Fire Red, Leaf Green. You could have taken any of those 5 games on top of other potential, like, GBA Pokemon games. Like, let's say GBA Pokemon games. Just to see what the list exists, like, what the existing list is for this, right? So, GBA Pokemon games, you had Pinball, which I think is getting released. You had, what else? I guess Red, Blue, that's like Game Boy, regular Game Boy. That's another one you could have done, by the way. They could have done Gold, Silver, Crystal, Red, Blue, Green, Yellow, Fire Red, Leaf Green. You could have done Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, any of those, because those are all Game Boy or Game Boy Advanced or Game Boy Color. They're all easy ones they could have easily done. Instead, we get this, which is the weirdest because, guys, we already had a remake, an entire remake of this game barely 4 years ago. Okay, this came out in 2020. It's not been that long since this came out. It's very recent. So I'm gonna be real. This is the weirdest one they could have done. Like, I personally think, and again, if you guys are excited for this is fine. I'm probably still gonna play this on the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack. But also, that's another thing. You're technically paying for it as well. So if you already, for example, like me, you played DX, and you already own Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team, then what's the point of this, right? And keep in mind, you're not getting this for free, by the way. You still have to pay for Nintendo Switch Online, and you have to pay for the expansion pack specifically. Like, Nintendo Switch Online, it's not like just free real estate. You do still have to pay for it. So if you look at Nintendo Switch Online expansion pass, right, the expansion pack, if you look up, like, what the cost of that is, let's see. So you have to, first of all, pay for the regular one, right? Just pay for the regular list. And then you have to pay for the expansion pack, which gives you access to Nintendo 64 games, Game Boy Advance games, and Sega Genesis games, right? So that's basically what you get. And then you get some DLC at no additional cost. But that's the thing. You're kind of already paying for it by having to pay for the expansion pack, right? Because you guys can see. And the price increase is pretty hefty, by the way. Look at this. So 1 year's worth of Nintendo Switch Online is $20. Now, again, I know some of you out there will be like, $20 is nothing, bro. I got the money, bro. It's fine, bro. But yes, maybe you do, but not everybody does. Not everybody has access to $20 to just spend in a year. And then if you want the expansion pack, that's another, like, $30 on top of that. That's $50 a year for essentially the same things, except you just get access to what? These emulated games. That's it. And if you don't play Mario Kart, Animal Crossing, or Splatoon, you don't really have any, you don't have any actual value out of these three things. They don't really benefit you in any way. All you get is 3 different consoles emulated, and that's the extent of it. And no offense, but I just don't think that's necessarily a good enough offering. Like, I don't think that's a good enough offering. Because, like, the list of games that you have on here, it's nice and all, but you can genuinely just go online and get these for free. Again, I just don't see the point in it. I think they could have easily done any of those games that are, like, harder to get. Like, getting Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, Fire Red Leaf Green, you can still get it today, but they are getting more expensive to the point that it's like, you know, getting hard for people to find actual copies of them. Would have been nice to have those, because at least those we haven't seen in forever, okay? We haven't seen Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald in a long time. We have never actually seen them on a virtual console, whereas like Red, Blue, Green, you could argue differently. But point is, it's just fine. I'm excited that they're actually doing anything Pokemon related for Nintendo Switch Online, because let's be real, they don't really do a lot. And the only other thing that is a bit of an issue with this, and is a little bit worrisome, is that they announced this on its own. They didn't announce this alongside a Pokemon Presents, which gets me a little worried if we're gonna even get a Pokemon Presents this month. Because I've already spoken about this before, and I always bring this up, and I'm gonna bring it up again because, you know, I just like bringing it up, to be honest with you. But let's see. So if you look up at Pokemon Presents, right, which are these presentations they do for Pokemon, you know, every few months or so. Well, guess what? These presents are essentially like Nintendo Directs for Pokemon. And guess what? For the last 3 years, okay, literally starting since about, I want to say 2021. Since 2021, we've always had 1 Presents in February, right here, and 1 Presents in August. You guys can see 2021 February, 2021 August, 2022 February, 2022 August, 2023 February, 2023 August, and 2024 February, and logically 2024 August this month. Why? Because this is also the month of the World Championship in Pokemon. I don't know if the Direct or the Presents, whatever you want to call it, is going to happen, or if it will happen, if it would happen during the Pokemon World Championship or before or after it. Either way, it should happen around that time frame. So this is what I'm trying to say. The fact that they didn't announce this like during a Pokemon Presents instead is a little bit weird and worrisome, because you'd expect it to be alongside that, but it isn't, which is what gets me a little bit iffy about the whole thing. It makes me kind of like, you know, will we actually get any Pokemon news? So the thing is, I'm not even pissed off about this. I actually think this is great. We're getting more Pokemon. More Pokemon is good. And if you're already paying for Nintendo Switch Online plus the expansion pack, if you already are someone who's doing it, this is sick. You're getting more games. That's just only a positive. But if you're not and you want to get this, I just don't. Honestly, I'm going to be real with you. Just buy, like, you know, the remake. Just buy Mystery Dungeon DX. I don't even know what it's going for. I think it's still pretty expensive. Like, yeah, they're still charging a decent amount for that, unless you want to get it on sketchy websites. But point is, they still do charge quite a hefty amount for it, like $60. So honestly, if you just want to play the original instead, it might even be more worth it for you. This might actually be more beneficial, because at least you get access to Nintendo Switch Online plus some extra stuff on top of it. Because yeah, if they're still charging $60, man, that's just, I don't know, Chief. This is a hefty price to still be charging for a game that's 4 years old. Just saying. But point is just that, again, you guys, this is an option, okay? It exists. You can go out there, get your hands on it. But again, it's not necessarily a necessity, right? But again, what I'm really worried about is the fact that they announced this separately from a Pokemon Direct or a Pokemon Presents or a Nintendo Direct or something. The fact that it's not part of that is a little bit weird, because you'd expect it to be a part of it, and that would be some sort of, you know, reveal that could happen during the Presents to kind of hype people up and give people more content and make people think that like the Presents was like a massive Pokemon announcement. And it would just give them more stuff to put into the announcement and an easier way to promote it, unless they're expecting whatever they're going to promote during the actual Presents. If there is an actual Presents this month, then maybe that's going to be so big and so important that they don't want it to be muddied by something like this. So they already put this out there on the 2nd of August, which was like, what, yesterday? To just get it out of the way, to make sure that people wouldn't be complaining about it. So that's at least the way I'm viewing it. I could be totally wrong here, I'm going to be honest with you, but that's the way that I'm looking at this, at least from my perspective. But again, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I could be 100% wrong. But let's move on to the next thing, though, which is, first of all, the latest Pokemon Scarlet and Violet special set, Shrouded Fable, is now available in the West. So that is a new set that's out, which means that they have now reached for the Pokemon, like, and keep in mind, this is something that you guys may not think about, but it's just somebody like me who spends way too much time on this shit is aware of, which is, keep in mind, Pokemon TCG and Pokemon video games are connected. Anything that happens with Pokemon cards is basically merchandise related, but every piece of merchandise in Pokemon has directly a tie-in with the video game. So think about it like this. Every time a DLC releases or a new Pokemon game releases, usually a few months later or very shortly after, you'd have your Pokemon TCG sets to coincide with that, right? To get people excited. Well, guess what? We've now reached Kitakami. There is only really one more location from the recent games they can do before they ran out of mainline stuff, and it's about time we get to the next thing, which of course is the Indigo Disc DLC, which is of course, set in Unova, whatever, so they can do that one. That could be another set. And of course they do these filler sets because, as far as I'm aware, I think it's every 3 to 4 months. I think 3 to 4 months between each set being released. So in between every Pokemon set, there's about 3 to 4 months before the TCG sets release. And usually there's one big set that's related to the most recent game, and then one set that's or a few sets, 1 or 2 sets that are a little bit more throwaways, right? That aren't super necessarily important, if you want to put it that way. But there's about 3 months or so between each set. Again, I'm giving like an estimate here. It's not like pinpoint perfect, but the fact that they've already reached Kitakami and we are now at like the second half of 2024 means that they're gonna probably reach Indigo Disc by like March of next year. Most likely Indigo Disc should happen by then, or end of this year would be Indigo Disc, or beginning of next year. So January to March, anywhere in that time frame should be Indigo Disc, which means that we should be expecting the next Pokemon game to release mid of next year, logically, because then that would be perfectly enough time to coincide with the next set coming out and all the merchandise and stuff they have to do. So that's the way I'm looking at it. I could be totally wrong, but that's just where my brain is at with this sort of stuff. So I'd love to know what you guys think about it. Just let me know in the comment section down below. But yeah, it is a bit of an interesting one. Moving on, though, we have some important stuff, guys, which is massive updates for the sales of Pokemon games, which is, first of all, Serbia update. As of June 30th, 2024, Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet have sold 25.29 million units, making it the third and fastest Pokemon game to ever hit the 25 million milestone. And then he says here that to compare, this is what the games were at in their first 16 to 17 months since the launches were worldwide. So comparably, right, when you take these other games, for example, X and Y had 14 million copies, Sun and Moon had 16.21 million copies, Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee had 12.2 million copies, and Sword and Shield had 21.85 million copies. Scarlet and Violet is still ahead. It took Sword and Shield just under 3 years to hit this, which is very true. Which, again, if you can look over here, Serbia update, as of June 30th, 2024, Pokemon Sword and Shield have sold 26.35 million copies. So they have still sold more than Scarlet and Violet, but realistically, Scarlet and Violet is on that, like, comparably, right? In that same time, Sword and Shield sold 21.8, so almost 22, whereas Scarlet and Violet sold 25.29. So if the pattern continues, they should be able to hit that number very soon, like realistically speaking, unless like the sales fall off or whatever happens. Like, I don't know, if they're going to be able to sell another 2 million copies over time. I don't know, brother. I'm going to be real with you. I have no idea. That's not something I can answer. But what this does lead me to believe, and again, keep in mind, please just remember this, because this is what a lot of people will do, is like whenever they see this number, they'll just be like, oh, see guys, I told you Scarlet and Violet was perfect and all the haters are wrong. Sales don't necessarily translate to quality. Let's put it like that. Every year, Call of Duty sells an obscene amount of games and amount of copies. Call of Duty sells us a lot. Is Call of Duty necessarily good? No. They make bad games. The next game is like 500 gigabytes in size, and it's a Call of Duty. So I don't know what the fuck they're doing with the textures and shit, but they're clearly not doing a good job. Point is, sales don't necessarily mean that the product is good. Like, people buy McDonald's every day. Is McDonald's good for you? No. Does it taste good? Yeah, it's slop. It's sloppiness. It's slop. And people like slop. Same thing as you guys watching these videos. This is slop content. I'm not really like, doing my best job here. This is not the best kind of video, but you guys are enjoying this. And at the end of the day, that's fine. And that's the way I think you should view this. Scarlet and Violet selling this many copies. At the end of the day, Scarlet and Violet was not a horrible game. I would say Sword and Shield were worse games, and I'm surprised they sold that much. But there is one big caveat to these numbers compared to other numbers of Pokemon, which is they were released on the Switch, right? The Nintendo Switch console is what these games were all released on, which makes a big difference. Why? Because previously, people that didn't really buy the handheld consoles, which a lot of people bought it mainly for Pokemon, but the reason, we didn't necessarily see, as many people, maybe that were just mainly console players, didn't get Pokemon games, and maybe the sales were lower because of that, is because the Pokemon games were always on handheld. The mainline games were always on handheld. The other ones were always, anything else was usually on, other consoles. And the mainline consoles, aka the Wii, the GameCube, stuff like that, never really got a mainline Pokemon game. When I'm talking about mainly mainline Pokemon games, Red, Blue, so on and so forth, right? We never got those, which definitely had an impact on sales. Like, if you look at the sales of consoles, the Nintendo Switch, compared to like the Nintendo 3DS, right, has double the amount of units, which means that there's a double amount of consumers that have a likeliness of buying these games. Coincide with the fact that we now also have like Pokemon Go, which is massive, which came out in 2016, definitely helped boost those numbers up. Same thing with like, you know, the anime change. TCG had a massive boost. Like the Pokemon TCG had a massive boost during the whole like, pandemic area, like time frame, right? That was like a massive boost to the numbers that we saw for specifically, you know, Pokemon interest and Pokemon TCG and that kind of stuff. It gave a massive boost to that whole part of you know, Pokemon. And guess what? Scarlet and Violet released in that same time frame too. So a lot more people were likely to go get their hands on it compared to before, because there were way more people that had one of these consoles. Again, the only caveat to that is Nintendo DS. And of course, the Nintendo DS Pokemon games sold less. That also was the kind of downturn of Pokemon. Gen 4 and Gen 5, those were both released when Pokemon was a little bit on its downturn, but now Pokemon is back up again. Pokemon making hella stocks, okay? Like, they making stonks. So, point being this, Pokemon is in a better position than it's ever been. It's more popular than it's been since, like, you know, the Pokemon Go's release and since the original games released in, you know, back in, like, the 90s. So this Pokemon is in a good spot in terms of, like, a fan base. Like, there's so many more Pokemon fans now. There's a new generation of Pokemon fans, new people that are coming in. And I know maybe some of you want to be like, oh, that doesn't matter, but YouTube as well. YouTube, as much as you want to deny it or not accept the reality of it, YouTube has helped boost Pokemon's numbers. There's so many more content creators that make Pokemon videos. They have boosted the popularity of it. People that I watch that normally would not be people that I would watch for Pokemon make Pokemon content too now, do Nuzlockes and stuff. My point is just the fact that Pokemon has become even bigger now, and the internet has helped it, and by proxy, it's just allowed it now, with the help of the Nintendo Switch being like both a home console and a handheld console, to just get even bigger. And that is just incredible. That's honestly perfect. That's great. Because if Pokemon keeps performing good, maybe they'll make better games, hopefully. Like, I would hope so. At least they'll experiment more. And that's what they've been doing. As much as people want to shit on Scarlet and Violet, I still think they're decent games. I don't dislike the games. I think they had decent amount of content. I think they were fun. There were issues, though. And that has more to do with programming. I think they just need to hire people that are a little bit more experienced with it. I feel like they let that shit slip by, and I think they need to optimize their games a bit better. The optimization in Pokemon games is a little freaking bad, because we have massive lag spikes, messed up textures, and just bugs and shit that just shouldn't be there. But realistically, if those things get ironed out, Scarlet and Violet are not bad games. Like, Scarlet and Violet are not that bad. Like, they're not that horrible. Like, realistically, they ain't that bad set of games. They're actually pretty solid. And that's pretty much where I'm going to say that. So what I'm trying to say with this is, the fact that Pokemon is doing this good, it's one good thing for the company, because that means that Game Freak will keep making games for the foreseeable future. But hopefully, this does not mean that we're going to keep getting shittier games, and that hopefully things will get better. Because I'm going to say it like this. Scarlet and Violet was better in Sword and Shield. And I don't care what anybody says about that. That's just my own opinion. I think it was better, and I hope that we're going to keep getting improvements, and I love it that we're getting games like Pokemon Legends Arceus and Pokemon now Legends ZA, which are more experimental and interesting little projects they're trying to make that are different than the mainline games. They're trying something different, and that's important. They need to be creative, and I've heard from like developers at Game Freak and stuff, like there's interviews they've done and posts and stuff like that, where they're trying to let the more young developers try new things out, be more creative, do interesting stuff. That's what we want. That's what we want from Pokemon. The complaints about the dex cuts and stuff, let's be realistic here. 1,000 Pokemon is a lot. Once you start adding to that number and you're expecting every single time a new game comes out for the textures to be remade and redone and all that kind of stuff, it gets to a massive amount. Like, you know, at that point, we would just have to accept that every Pokemon game would take 5 to 6 years. And some of you might be like, I will take it. Sure, but from a business perspective, they're not going to do that. And honestly, if it wasn't, same thing for me, I'm going to be real with you. From a business perspective, I would hate it if we had to wait 5 to 6 years. But from a consumer and fan perspective, I would not mind if Pokemon took 5 to 6 years to make the next game, so we could have our own Elden Ring, like, you know, our own Elden Ring of Pokemon. I would love that. I honestly would love that. But realistically speaking, that can't happen. Pokemon is a content machine. Honestly, my biggest gripe with Pokemon isn't with the mainline games. it's not even, with that. It's actually more with the spin-off games. I think we need more spin-off games to come out, but good spin-off games. I don't want more mobile slop. I'm gonna be real with you. Pokemon Go is just going downhill in my opinion. Masters is interesting, but it is just a gacha game, and some of the interesting games they used to have been deleted. I don't know if any of you knew Pokemon Duel, but Pokemon Duel was a fun game, and it's just gone. They just deleted it from the internet. It doesn't exist anymore. Pokemon Unite, recently they did a really messed up thing in Pokemon Unite. I don't know if you guys know this, but they basically made it so if you pay for the premium status in the game, which is like a monthly subscription, you were able to get like these special, skins every single month. They gave you a special set of skins. Now they removed that. They punish the players now who were literally paying monthly to get special skins and extra bonuses. They took the skins away, and they left them with basically nothing. So you were paying for jack all in comparison to what you were getting before. So a lot of people are pissed about that, and that's the kind of shit where I'm like, that's where I think there are more issues. And if they start adding microtransactions into the mainline games, into this, that's when it gets a little bit more problematic. Like, for example, the Mew that you got from the Pokeball Plus. That shit was bad. That's the kind of stuff I don't want to see. And I'm just hoping that we don't go down that path. Like, the one thing we can be proud of and happy with Pokemon is that we haven't gone down the path of paying to get, like, advantages in the game, or going the Ubisoft path. Like, trust me, we have it good compared to how bad it could get. And I know that's not really a good mindset to have, that, hey, at least we're not getting it, at least it's not worse, but it's still better than what it could be at. And I'm just going to put it like this. Scarlet and Violet, the sales doesn't mean it's a good game. That's just the reality of it. This number does not mean it's a good game. However, I played the game like 15 times. I played through this thing, okay? I'm really sick of these games, to be honest with you. But I'm going to tell you right now, after 15 times of replaying them, they're not bad. They're decent games. They're well-paced, good games. There's just an undeniable, it's an undeniable fact that they're decent games. Are they perfect? Far from it. Are they great games? No. Are they bad games? No. Are they horrible games? No. They're just good. They're fun. They're fine. And sometimes some games are just like that. Sometimes that's just what they are. And sometimes that's all they will be. That's just the reality of it. And that's just something we have to accept sometimes, which I think is fine. I'm just hoping that whatever the next project is, now that we're not getting a new game this year, that means that's 1 year extra of just time they have to work on a good game. I'm really hoping Legends ZA and whatever Generation 10 is going to be top-notch and come out on the Switch 2, the next console, which means that they have way more time to optimize, work on, improve, and get it right. That's the only thing. Just get it right, Game Freak. Look at me slapping my microphone. Point is, just get it right, and I think everybody will be happy. I don't think people were going to, people are always going to complain, but just get it right. You have the time, you have the resources, you are a bloody billion-dollar company, you have the time and resources, you got this. I believe in it. So, let's now instead read some more slop, which of course is going to be on none else than 4chan. You guys know how this shit works. Let's see what it's all about. So, we have 2 posts to take a look at. This is the first one, which says, all new megas plus starter info. Game nearly doubles the amount of existing megas. Starters are Snivy, Litten, and Totodile, which get regional evolutions instead of new forms, like a Cubone evolves in Gen 7. So I'm guessing he's talking about, like, a Alolan Marowak, which, that's just the regional evolution, I guess. But why say it like that, though? That's weird. But, all right. Either way, he says, new megas. And this is apparently the list of megas that we would get. It's a long list, so let's see what it says. So, Gen 1, Venusaur X and Blastoise X. Now, I've heard this said before, like an X form of Megas. Again, I've heard this said in other rumors, so I feel like I've read this already before, so that doesn't necessarily stand out to me. However, they do say Nidoking. I personally love Nidoking, and they will say Nidoqueen. These two deserve it, okay? Nidoking and Nidoqueen have not gotten any Megas, no forms, nothing. They are just kind of forgotten Pokemon. I love Nidoking. I think he's one of the best Pokemon in existence, but it just never got any love. Like, it just has never received any love, and that's where I'm a little bit sad, and I'm hoping it will get some love finally, and they will actually give it a Mega Evolution. Next up, they say Jinx. Now, if you guys don't know this, you guys know the cries in Pokemon. Of course you do if you play them, but as an example, whoop, if you guys know that sound, you'll know that that's like, what, Cricketune, Cricketot, whatever. Point is, whoop, that's a cry in Pokemon, and guess what? Every Mega Evolution has a special cry. Like, every cry starts with a specific kind of tone to it, and then it does the tone of the actual Pokemon. Well, there was a data mined cry from Pokemon that was found a long time ago. Like, way back. In, like, the Pokemon, like, early versions of Pokemon Home, I think. And that's where they found, like, this weird cry. And people figured out it sounded like Jinx. And then eventually, very recently, they confirmed that it was actually Jinx. They confirmed that it belonged to Jinx. And that probably meant that there was a planned mega evolution of Jinx. Now, if Jinx finally gets that mega now, that would be great. Next up, he says Kingler and Snorlax. Snorlax did have a Gigantamax form, so I could see getting another one. Kingler is a bit of an iffy one. That would be sick, but who knows. Either way, Gen 2, Noctowl, Ariados, Sunflora, Slowking, and Magcargo. All decent Pokemon, not gonna lie, all sound pretty solid. Moving on to Gen 3, Claydol, Chimecho, Zangoose, and Seviper. Now, Zangoose and Seviper would make the most sense if we do get anything from Gen 3 because those two are rivals within the actual Pokemon lore. Don't ask me why, but it is just the case. I mean, actually, it has to do with the fact that I think Mongoose, because Zangoose is based on a Mongoose, and Mongoose and snakes are kind of like you know, they do fight, I guess, or they're natural predators of each other or whatever. So I think there's something to do with that. But yeah, Gen 4, Luxray, that's definitely one that everybody wants. Honchkrow, Roserade, Magius, Magnezone. And then we have Gen 5, Scrafty, Crocodile, Liavani, Gigalith, Zoroark, Vanillux, Chandelure, and Haxorus. I'm gonna be real, this is a long list. I really doubt that this would be real because this is too many Pokemon. Like, this is just too big of a list. But moving on. Gen 6, Chestnut, Delphox, and Greninja. Yes, these three need to get Megas. Like, the original starters from Kalos, they need Mega Evolutions. Like, I don't care what anybody says, those three didn't just... Why did the starters not have Megas? It made no sense. Then he says Pyro, Malamar, Gudra, Noivern, Xerneas, and Yveltal. Of course, the Legendaries would get it. I think that would make sense, right? Or some forms. Then Gen 7 Plus would be Mudsdale, Toucanon, Turtonator, Greedent, Phalanx, Bolton, Spidup, Scovillain, and Dunsparce. Again, a decent link. And then Mega Greedent apparently plays an important role in the postgame with the Squirrel Mythical by hiding notes in its tail. Not sure how that would make any sense, but it is what it is. Now, I'll be real, this is too many Megas. That's why I think this is a definitely fake post, because there's too many Megas listed. Realistically, I don't think we're going to get that many. Like, just in all honesty, I don't think that'll be real. But it doesn't end there, guys. We also have this post. It's just a kind of toy version of Yveltal, and then it's just this giant post. So basically, here is what the guy has to say. So he says, everything I know about Legends from Cocoon, okay? And he says, new Pokemon, question mark? Only two. Both legendaries. One, Arbirel, a grass-flying beanstalk kaiju, which is, okay, a beanstalk kaiju. I guess he's trying to make a kind of a connection here to the World Tree of some sort, and serves as the game's main conflict and Zygarde's ancient rival. The other, Tapu Zeza. So you're trying to imply that just so keep in mind, guys, Legends Arceus introduced a fourth form or fourth Pokemon to the Weather Trio, right? I think it's the Weather Trio, right? So Tornadus, Landorus, Thundurus, whatever, and they included Enamorus. But he's trying to say here that we're going to get another one, but for the Tapus now, it's going to be Tapu Zeza. It's part of a post-game mission. It's the lost fifth Tapu, Bug Fairy, specific form, who guarded the oceans of primitive Alola until a great storm lost it at sea. Oh wait, if it's Bug Fairy, why is it watching the oceans? Okay, fine. It ended up in the land that would one day become Lumio City, slumbering far below the surface until the redevelopment project wakens it, which sends a signal for the other four Tapus to reinforce it. This comes with the introduction of buzzing terrain. Okay, a new terrain that boosts the defense of Bug and prevents stats from being lowered for 5 turns. Fair enough. Then he says regional forms. There are only 3, and they're called urban forms, not Kalos or Lumiose forms. I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't think they would call them urban forms. That just wouldn't work well. Can be ridden, but unlike previous titles, they're not gifted or forced onto you. Simply presented as options: roller skates, street cabs, gondolas, what the hell? And a Noibat flying taxi will be presented as a paid fast travel options. Wishy-Washy, special form, or regional form, is a smaller school of sleeker Wishy-Washy water electric that take the form of a jet ski. That's very specific. For speeding through the city, waterways, and sewers. Rev-Rooms, regional form, is a go-kart that you can drift through the streets and hop over obstacles with. That just does not sound real, but okay. Must use a mechanic to upgrade Rev-Room's poison type into Rev-Room's regional form, psychic type's clean energy. Then he says Frostmoth, regional form, has larger, more rigid wings, is a steel ice type. It's a hang glider that leaves a trail of snow behind it. You can use its flight to traverse the city quickly, but its main use is for finding hidden items and NPCs on rooftops. There you go. Now, he says starters. Okay, here we go. What do you have for starters? The offering this time will be more orthodox, so standard. Chespin, Fennekin, and Froakie, as these are the only classic pre-modern starters that have only ever appeared as partners in a single title. As many have suggested, they do receive new Mega Evolutions as a complement to their revisit. That would be pretty fine. I'm not going to lie, that'd be pretty nice, but okay. Then he says, Cocoon continues saying, Megas, question mark. These will be a bulk of the new content in the game. The explanation for new Megas is that the tension of Arboreal's arrival is unearthing even more forms that anyone knew about. Okay. First up is Kanto. He says that Wigglytuff is going to be getting a new Mega, which actually would be cool. Resembles Balloon Animal. Okay. I don't know if I would like that, but okay. Dragonite gains an extra set of wings and a mask. Ooh, okay. So gains an extra set of wings and a mask. That would be weird, but okay. Hoenn, Flygon. Of course, Flygon is a really logical one. I know that they were actually, like, we know for a fact that they were working on a Mega Flygon, then they just canceled it and didn't continue with it. Melodic is covering gemstones and gains Psychic, so Melodic as well. Sinnoh is Luxray again, just like the other post we saw. Gets War Paint and gains Fighting, apparently. Toxicroak resembles Martial Arts Master. Weavile just gets tougher and sharper like Mega Garchomp. Then he says Unova. Apparently, Simisage becomes a bad boy, gains Dark. Simisear becomes a stylist, gains Psychic. And Simipour becomes a hippie, gains... A hippie, okay, cool. Gains Fairy. Throw gets a Molten Gi, gains Fire. And Sock gets a Frozen Gi, gains Ice. That would actually be sick. Galvantula becomes a True Tarantula. Galvantula, Tarantula, I mean, it already is one. So, I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Like, just... What's the typing going to be? That makes no sense. I don't get it. Either way, these are Megas, so it's fine. He says Kalos. Apparently, Chestnut, a Black Knight, a Delphox, a Wicked Witch, and Greninja, a Sage Jiraiya. Go-Goat, apparently, is a lanky mountain goat and gains Rock. Meowstic. Geez, something in my throat. Dry throat, boys. Two-faced black and white form shared by both genders gains Ghost. Heliolisk turns into fully flared Sundial, swaps normal to fire. That's a weird one. Heliolisk getting in form. Okay. Yveltal becomes a scorpion-looking monster, still Y-shaped, with two large front claws and a long tail, swaps flying for poison, and Xerneas becomes a dinosaur-looking monster. Its sharp color spines form a clear X shape and gains Steel type. Okay. Then he says for the plot here, he continues on, and he says that apparently, here we go. Plot. So, you are employed by the development company to help them clear the final hurdle in their plan. They've successfully refitted Lumio City to accommodate for wild Pokemon, but now they're out of control and even lashing out at people. As you help clear building infestations, sanction of parks, and put the finishing touches on the city, you will document the various species that have come to inhabit Lumio City, to help its inhabitants better understand who they're sharing their home with. Then, for gameplay, it's like a hybrid of Legends and Generation 9. You have to catch duplicate Pokemon in order to complete all the information on them. But the ways you're assigned this feels less repetitive than in Arceus. Once again, you can catch Pokemon from Overworld without initiating battle. However, there are also hordes of Pokemon, and if they attack you, you're forced into a traditional battle. There are 6 frenzy Pokemon throughout your journey, supercharged horde leaders that you must face as bosses. Diggersby, Pyroar, Pangoro, Aegislash, Trevenant, and Noivern. There's a battle with the same format in the postgame against Diancie and a horde of Carbink, but this is not classified as a frenzy Pokemon. Now, what's not in the game? Primals, Mega Rayquaza, and Mega Mewtwo are not in the game. I guess it would make sense. Mega Mewtwo makes no sense to fit in there. Mega Rayquaza, if the game is set in the past, of course, then that doesn't fit. Mega Rayquaza, I don't know, that's more, and Primal, that's more that's more Hoenn, but fair enough. Nor in the data for them, or their base species. Interesting. AZ himself does not appear in the game, although he's acknowledged and his Floette is finally obtainable. There's no Paradox or Convergent forms in the game. That's interesting. I would expect, like, them to kind of drop that whole concept going forward, but fair enough. Which I guess this is what this is saying. There's no online battling. They didn't do that in Arceus either, so I guess it makes sense. Then he says, what's not... Okay, so that's what's not in the game. What surprises are there? Apparently, Zygarde has a unique and cute role in the story. It'll probably become many people's favorite legendary now. There's actually a decent amount of stuff to do after beating the game, with the main beats being quests for Diancie, Hoopa, Volcanion, and the Kanto starters, and the Hoenn starters. Strangely, a lot of allusions to Ultra Beasts, but none are in the game. Interesting. That is interesting. That would actually be really wild if true, but who knows? Ladies and gentlemen, I'd love to know what you guys' thoughts are on these actual posts here and all these little things we've been reading through today. I'd love to know what you all think about it. Let me know what your thoughts are on the, of course, Game Boy, game coming out and all that, with Mystery Dungeon, Game Boy Advanced. port. Let me know what you guys think about, you know, the sales of Scarlet and Violet and Sword and Shield, as well as what you think about these rumors. Let me know in the comment section down below. And yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be where I'm going to be ending this video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out and bye-bye.